The ocean never sleeps. In a small coastal town in Maine, the waves crashed endlessly against the jagged rocks, carrying with them whispers of secrets long buried beneath the salt and fog. On a cold October night, the first body appeared. It was discovered by a fisherman named Harrow, a man who had spent 40 years of his life pulling nets out of the Atlantic. He knew the sea well enough to tell when something didn't belong. That night, tangled among his nets, was not a struggling fish, but the pale face of a man, eyes wide open, mouth frozen in a scream that no one had heard. Pinned against the corpse's chest was a small wooden carving, a bird with its wings ripped off. The police arrived quickly, but their faces betrayed unease. They took the body, they took the carving, but no statements were given. The town, accustomed to quiet, began to murmur. Whispers spread from the docks to the diners. Who was the man? Why the bird? By morning, the victim was identified as Richard Halpern, a wealthy developer with deep ties to the town's politics. He was powerful, untouchable, until the ocean delivered him back, lifeless. For most, that was the end of curiosity. But for Dr. Emily Carter, the town's young forensic pathologist, it was the beginning. Emily had only been in Harrow's Bay for 6 months, hoping to escape the chaos of city morgues. She thought she had chosen peace. Instead, she found herself staring at a mutilated body with a carved bird pressed against its chest, and a gnawing feeling that this wasn't random. That night, she couldn't sleep. She opened the evidence file again, studying the strange bird. Its craftsmanship was crude but deliberate, old wood polished smooth by time. And there, carved faintly on the underside, was something the detectives hadn't noticed, a symbol, 2 intersecting circles. Emily's instincts screamed. She searched through town records, old archives tucked away in the dusty basement of the courthouse. Hours turned into days until she stumbled upon a headline from 1989. Prominent judge found dead, wooden bird left at scene. The photo was grainy, the details scarce, but the symbol, it was the same. 30 years. The same signature. Someone had killed before, and now, they were killing again. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that the first murder wasn't random. Richard Halpern wasn't just a wealthy developer, he had enemies in every corner of Harrow's Bay, city council members, business rivals, even police officers who owed him favors. She returned to the morgue the next morning, tracing Halpern's movements in the days before his death. His schedule was packed with meetings at local banks, construction sites, and charity events. Every person he'd interacted with became a potential suspect. Her first breakthrough came from a seemingly insignificant detail, the victim's phone records. One number stood out, dialed repeatedly in the final week of his life. When Emily traced it, it led to a shell company registered under the name Harbor Security Solutions, a private firm supposedly handling local maritime logistics. Emily dug deeper. The company had no website, no listed employees, just a registered address in a vacant office on the outskirts of town. Curious, she drove there at night. The building was empty, except for a flickering fluorescent light in one corner. Emily felt a chill as she noticed a stack of documents on a desk. Shipping manifests, invoices, even handwritten notes with names and dates, all linked to prominent citizens of Harrow's Bay. And then she saw it, a page listing Richard Halpern with a note next to his name, final payment, completed. Her heart raced. Someone had been keeping a ledger of people. And Halpern had been checked off. Footsteps echoed behind her. Emily spun around, but no one was there. Only the sound of her own heartbeat and the hum of the flickering light. She took photos of the documents and left, locking the office behind her. Over the next week, 2 more bodies were found. Each one connected to the same web of transactions Emily had discovered. Businessmen, politicians, even a retired police sergeant. Each corpse had the same bird carving left beside it, a signature. Emily went public with the information through a trusted colleague at a regional newspaper. The reaction was explosive. Authorities were forced to launch a formal investigation, but Emily quickly realized that some of the officials assigned to the case were the very people implicated in the ledger. Threats followed. Anonymous letters, strange cars outside her apartment, phone calls that went silent after a single question. Emily understood one truth: the murders weren't random. They were a methodical cleanup of anyone who knew too much or posed a threat to a hidden network of power and corruption in Harrow's Bay. And now, she had become the silent witness. Emily knew she couldn't go to the local police. Too many were on the list. She needed allies she could trust, or at least those who couldn't be bought. She contacted an old friend from the FBI, Mark Reynolds, a field agent who had once helped her on a cold case in Boston. Mark agreed to help, but warned her, "Emily, whoever is behind this is organized. They've cleaned house before, and they're not afraid to finish the job." Together, they pored over the ledger and documents Emily had taken from Harbor Security Solutions. Patterns began to emerge. Every victim had been involved in transactions, approvals, or audits that threatened the network's money laundering operations. The bird carving wasn't a random signature, it was a warning. Anyone who saw it knew the consequence of defiance. One evening, Emily returned home to find her apartment ransacked. Files gone. Laptop missing. Her journal, where she recorded interviews and leads, torn to pieces. A single note remained, taped to her refrigerator. "Stop digging, or you'll be next." Emily didn't stop. She traced the transactions to an abandoned warehouse by the docks, a place frequently mentioned in the shipping manifests. At night, she and Mark surveilled the location. Shadows moved inside. Trucks came and went. Men in suits, carrying crates marked with the same symbol as the ledger. Mark whispered, "This is bigger than we thought. This isn't just Harrow's Bay. It's regional. Maybe national." Emily's hands shook as she took photos. One truck opened briefly, revealing stacks of packages, but something moved inside. A muffled sound. A human sound. Emily swallowed hard. These weren't just shipments, they were people. Suddenly, a floodlight snapped on. Headlights blinded them. A voice boomed over a megaphone. "Step away from the building." Men poured out from the warehouse, armed and organized. Emily and Mark ran, hiding behind crates. Their hearts pounded. This was no longer investigation, it was survival. Later, in a safe house, they pieced together the evidence. The network controlled local law enforcement, the city council, even a regional bank. Everyone in the ledger had either been silenced or was complicit. The ledger Emily had found was the first tangible proof anyone had ever collected. They had to act fast. But moving too quickly could get Emily killed. Emily sat in the dimly lit safe house, the ledger open in front of her. Every page a testament to greed, power, and murder. She had sent copies to trusted journalists, encrypted backups to federal contacts, and even a tip-off to investigative units in Boston. The message was clear: if anything happened to her, the evidence would go public. But time was running out. A knock on the door made her freeze. She peered through the peephole. No one. Just a small envelope slid under the door. Inside, a photograph of her apartment, taken that very afternoon. A single word was scrawled across it: "Next." Her pulse raced. They knew where she was. They had eyes everywhere. Mark entered, scanning the room. "Emily, we have to move. Tonight." They drove to a remote coastal cliff, a place Emily remembered from her childhood visits. The lighthouse at the edge of the rocks was abandoned, the beacon long extinguished. There, she started uploading the ledger online, piece by piece, ensuring the network secrets would leak no matter what. Hours passed. Rain began to fall, hammering against the windows. Emily felt a presence behind her. Sheriff Griggs. He stepped from the shadows, gun in hand, eyes cold. "You've gone too far." Emily didn't flinch. The world will know. The ledger doesn't lie. Every name, every crime, it's all here. Griggs smirked. The world doesn't care. They won't come after me. You're alone. Emily pressed the final key on her laptop. The files began uploading to multiple secure servers. She knew it would reach newsrooms, federal agents, and investigators who couldn't be bought. The tension broke in an instant. Griggs lunged. Emily sidestepped, crashing the laptop to the floor. Sparks flew. Rain soaked them both. A struggle ensued. Shots were fired. Mark tackled Griggs to the ground. Emily scrambled to pick up the laptop and hit send. A siren sounded in the distance. It wasn't the local police. It was federal agents, responding to the digital leak she triggered. Griggs cursed, realizing the trap had worked against him. Epilogue, the aftermath. Weeks later, the headlines were everywhere. Harrow's Bay officials arrested in human trafficking and corruption ring. Ledger reveals decades of organized crime in coastal town. Emily survived but disappeared from public view. Some said she returned to her hometown, others whispered she changed her identity to stay safe. Mark kept in touch, reporting that trials were ongoing. The Ledger had toppled a network that seemed untouchable, proving one journalist's courage could challenge centuries of corruption. Harrow's Bay would never be the same. And somewhere, in the shadows of its docks and warehouses, the silent witnesses, both living and lost, had finally been heard.